people who even themselves seem surprised that they are in certain positions that they have been put in. There is a throne speech that is, that requires a lot of work from the public servants as well. And a budget is a lot of work for the public service to do.
Sure.
But you have all summer to do it. A fall economic statement in September that frankly will be outdated a few weeks later too, but it's also about respecting Parliament. It's about you ran on being like the economic stewards and having more economic cred than Pierre Poilievre, and the first action is telling Canadians, no, you're not going to take Parliament seriously enough to introduce a budget and give people a snapshot of where you're going and how much it's going to cost and what you think the challenges are in the future. Like, no, it's completely inappropriate, and the Conservatives are right. And the other opposition parties should probably gang on and complain that the government is railroading and acting in completely unacceptable ways. And this is not a standard that you want to set, because the next government will do exactly the same thing.
Welcome back to the show. My name's Mark Nixon. Rapid fire, major breaking news across Canada that the mainstream media will not show you in 12 minutes. In this episode, we have Mark Carney saying zero budget. Absolutely no budget. And everybody in Canada voted for him because he had 25 years experience working for the Bank of Canada, Bank of England, all these major corporations. And every single year he performed and gave a massive budget, billions of dollars worth of budgets. He's an expert economist. He's an economic genius because he produced all these budgets. And then he becomes the Prime Minister of Canada and says, guess what? All those 25 years of making budgets after budgets, I'm no longer making budgets. Forget the budget for Canada. Hopefully, the Pope is going to give him forgiveness for not providing us Canadians that budget when he promised us he would have a plan. There's zero plan with Mark Carney. Let's go. We're going to start things off with Mark Carney arrived in Rome, but he didn't arrive alone. He brought his wife and his child because this is a vacation in Rome to see the Pope. And hopefully when he sees the Pope, he asks for that forgiveness. For a country that has zero budget, he sure knows how to spend money. I really wonder how much this freaking trip is going to cost us Canadians. I'm sure it's not $100,000. It's probably over $1 million. We're not going to find out because there's zero budget for us to look at. It's just blank checks. He gets those checks from the Governor General saying, hey, I need some emergency money because we got to fight, elbows up. And then we find out $73 billion has been signed off for Mark Carney, with $178 million going to CBC. Now he's in Rome. The first thing he did, he met with the Prime Minister of Italy, saying she's part of the G7. The one thing is Mark Carney's a liberal. She is a conservative. She gets along with Donald Trump perfectly. Well, actually, so does Mark Carney. Isn't that funny? Is he actually a conservative? We don't even know what he is because every time he opens his mouth, it is a lie. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and he said he built Rome. That wouldn't even surprise me at this point. Next up, he did a 2-minute, and I mean only 2-minute meeting with Zelensky. And all he said is, we got your back, buddy. No matter what, we will be sending blank checks straight to Ukraine because we have no budget. And they shook hands and he says, thank you very much. Meeting is done. Let's take a look at that meeting with Zelensky.
Mr. President, welcome. Welcome to this corner of Canada. And may I say, in every corner of Canada is Ukraine. The Canadian people stand in steadfast and unwavering support of your leadership, of the people of Ukraine. We admire what you're doing. We admire your commitment to peace, as you've demonstrated again this week. And we underscore that there can be no peace without the full support and participation of Ukraine, and that you have our absolute support.
Perfect. Absolute support. It looks like he took Justin Trudeau's speech and then he just brought it with him. Here's a picture I made of Mark Carney asking for forgiveness from the Pope. Make it worth it, Mark Carney. Get that forgiveness. We need you to be forgiven. And in my previous episode yesterday, I explained how Mark Carney removed all the tariffs on everything except for one thing, not one thing, a basket of things, one category, food. That's right. He wants to make life so affordable in Canada. He kept the tariffs on food. You pay for the tariffs, and they're blaming Donald Trump tariffs. I want you guys to think about something, and it's going to be infuriating. It's Donald Trump knew about Carney's game plan. That's right. He knew about the tariffs that were going to be appealed on April 16th. He knew about the elbows up was all fake, all of it. It was a fake elbows up. And he also said absolutely nothing to the media in the US. He said nothing to anyone. The US got exactly what they wanted. They wanted a liberal government in Canada. The real question now is why? Why did they want the liberal government? It's not going to be beneficial to us. That's for sure. I want you to leave a comment in the comment section. Why does Donald Trump want the Liberals to be in charge of Canada? Is it because there's no budget? And you're not going to believe this. It's not enough for Mark Carney and his family to go. He brought an entire crew.
I can tell you also some more information about the Canadian contingent heading there. So we know that the Canadian Cardinals, who were part of the conclave, are already there, as well as some other key Canadian Catholics. But joining Carney on this flight will be a 19-person delegation that includes 15 MPs and senators who are either Catholic or who have a large number of Catholics in their ridings, as well as a number of representatives of Indigenous organizations.
Are you kidding me? If you are even, if there's a Catholic inside your riding, you are going to Rome to meet the Pope. It didn't even say if you're a practicing Catholic. It's so absurd. If you have a few Catholics inside your riding, you are getting a plane ticket to Rome with our zero budget in Canada. Unbelievable. All right, we're done with Mark Carney. We're going to probably see a lot more of Mark Carney tomorrow when I do my update. We're going to move on to Danielle Smith. It's because Quebec has officially come out and said, build that pipeline, baby. Just build it.
Well, I think it's fantastic. I think what we've begun to see, especially since the big event in November in the United States, that Canadians have had to do a lot of soul searching about what it means to be Canadian. And what I've seen at the First Minister's table is that every single premier has priority projects that they want to get built. And they've had to make some compromises on things perhaps in the past. I've pointed out to them that the reason Alberta sells so much to the United States is we've had a hard time selling to our neighbors, both west and east as well as north. And what can we do about that? So I started that conversation with Premier Legault. He did say that he would have to ensure that there was social acceptability. We've done some polling and we shared that with him to demonstrate that the loud voices might be in opposition, but the quiet consensus is that, yeah, we do need to work on these nation building projects. I'm sensitive to the fact that perhaps we have to have a broader discussion about the route. Perhaps going through Montreal is a little bit more problematic than going further north, but I think that that is a real demonstration of how premiers and provinces want to work together.
Well, there you have it, Canada. It looks like the provinces are all okay with building pipelines. Well, if Quebec's okay, I'm sure the rest of the provinces are going to be okay. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Mark Carney and his MPs and cabinets and Stephen Guilbeault and Dominic LeBlanc, they're like, yeah, we're going to build all these corridors, and it's for power lines, not pipelines. Oh, it's going to get wild in Canada. And I can't wait to report on it because we have a federal government that says oil and gas is dead in Canada, but electricity is alive. Wow, it's going to get crazy. We got to check out Larissa. She absolutely crushed it.
Okay, Larissa, I wanted to ask you, when you consider what we had also seen around cabinet and in the corridors outside of cabinet, and how there were some mixed messaging there, what do you think is behind that? Do you think that they need to have a tighter grip on it? Or, you know, when you consider the fact that oftentimes you will trust these people to be able to say what they want to say, and I'm thinking of, you know, Stephen Guilbeault weighing in on pipelines, even though that's not his file anymore, and there's some of these things. Do you think that this is just some of the growing pains of a new government?
These aren't new people. These aren't neophytes. These aren't people who don't know how to bridge out of a question into something they want to talk about. For so many years, the Liberal government has said one thing to one group of people and another thing to another group of people. I think it was glaring today, but I don't think for a hot minute that PMO didn't know exactly what Steve Guilbeault would say should he be asked that question anywhere he is. So anytime he's around national press, they're going to ask him. PMO knows what he's going to say, and frankly, I think they're okay with it. They like this idea where you say one thing to one group of people, another thing to another. But I have to mention the most glaring thing that happened this week is that we learned that there is no federal budget. And for a government that ran on, themes of stability, predictability, reliability, I'm Mark Carney, financial savior for all. To say that he's not going to put forward a budget is ludicrous. I cannot believe he doesn't understand the value of sharing what your fiscal plan is going to be and the value of having the voice of the people vote on it, right? Like if you just won this big election, put it down on paper, pass it through the House. The idea that we're going to rise in June so we can't sit, let me think of who could extend that sitting calendar. Oh, it's the Liberal Party. It's Mark Carney. He can make them sit. He's not bound by any sort of law that says that they have to rise. He's making this very deliberate decision. I think it's bad for Canadian business, bad for democracy, and bad for Canada.
Yep, she's bang on. It's bad for everybody. And this is a friendly reminder that our parliament building has looked like this for 152 days, and they still receive their raises on April 1st. And they haven't worked a day in 152 days. And guess what? They're going to be opening it just for a couple of weeks, and then they're going to be shutting down for the entire summer. And yeah, they're not going to be working on that budget. They're just going to continue to expense from the Governor General. Please just sign those checks. But mainstream media and all the papers have been telling us for the past month and a half since Donald Trump's inauguration that if you go down to the United States and it says the majority of Canadians say traveling to the US could be unsafe and unwelcoming, a poll says. I've seen hundreds of these articles. Well, guess what? Today, this article comes out. Canadians warned about border wait times during the long weekend and how to avoid them. You can't make any of this stuff up. It's like the newspapers don't know what they wrote the day before. The messaging has changed. All right, this one's a bonus. You gotta see this one. Roman Barber, a conservative MP. You gotta check this out.
But freedom of speech is not just being free to utter speech, but to also hear speech. I was born in the former Soviet Union, and I lived there until I was almost 9. I remember being told in the Soviet Union that you could not listen to the BBC, and you could not listen to the Voice of America. You could even go to jail for passing around flyers that contained foreign views. That's why they called it the Iron Wall. And now, I hear Prime Minister Mark Carney saying that there's too much information and too much disinformation out there on US platforms. So what's Mark Carney going to do? Is he going to put me behind the Iron Wall again, deciding what we can and cannot hear? Will self-proclaimed socialist Stephen Guilbeault decide what is true and what is false and therefore safe for our consumption? The greatest spreader of misinformation is this Liberal government. And I hate the words misinformation and disinformation. It's the words that the communists use to bring down the hammer on free speech. Just have the decency to call it lies. call it lies, and let Canadians decide. Trust Canadians to decide what is true and what isn't true after hearing all sides. The greatest way to fight misinformation is with more and better information, not with government deciding what is true and what isn't true, and what is safe and what isn't safe. We Canadians have the freedom to decide, the freedom to speak, and the freedom to hear others speak, especially things that we do not like or things that we do not agree with. That is democracy.
Yeah, all right, Canada. I want a whole lot more of that. Roman Barber, you are on my list. I can't wait to hear more from that gentleman. We need a whole hell of a lot more of that. All right, everybody. This has been a great show. I can't wait to deliver all of you my 12-minute update tomorrow. I'll see you on the next report.